All right, guys. Theoretically, you should be able to hear me. Who's going to tell me they can hear me first? Who's going to tell me? Or smell me? I don't think we have that technology yet. Trump, though. Vipers. Smell them pretty far away. Can you hear me? You can hear me. I love you guys. All right. You see Buffalo? Cool. You see stuff, so you're not just seeing the thumbnail, which I think they should have put up. Haven't put up yet. Hey, me. Brilliant. Dude. All right. We're going to have fun. Loud and clear. Oh, that's giving me such joy. Hey, welcome back. Coming to you from the Queen City, Radio City, though not via radio. Because and if I were, I worry even more that you couldn't hear me because that's all I would have to offer. But apparently you can see me, hear me. A lot of you guys are saying hello. Mr. WW is funny. He's got the audio off, so that's on him. If you don't want to hear me, you can probably find ways not to. If these great earplugs nowadays, the kids wear them to rock concerts. I even wear them there too because, you know, I figure I should do not more damage than I did going to rock shows all through my 20s and 30s when, you know, doing that was like wearing a seatbelt in the back seat. Who did that? Like, you know, not smoking. We were smart back then. Actually, I didn't ever smoke except for once in a while when I drank. So here I am admitting that to you, all of you who I know so well personally. Well, you know, let's just get right into it. Well, you know, today's rant isn't going to be a long one, but let's get right into it. Here we go. FAFO, a word you're all probably well acquainted with. I can't say it here, or they'll demonetize me, but there's a find out part at the end. And I got to tell you, you know, there are Trump voters out there. There are people that supported him who had interests in supporting him. Doesn't mean I think that it was right. In fact, I think it was immoral. It was horrible. I've said this to a few people and maybe risked some friendships. But I don't care because that's my feeling on anyone that would look at that thing, that oily, greasy Jabba the Hutt sort of thing that leaves a trail of slime behind it when it rolls across golf courses, and vote for it to harm people, to destroy our country, our currency. I don't want to go into all of it. There's so many ridiculous plans this guy has that make no economic sense, no foreign policy sense. I mean, it does, I guess, if he's owned by Putin, and we all know there's no connection there, as the New York Times once pointed out. But the people that voted for Donald Trump, and he went up among numerous groups who voted directly against themselves. You know, we used to tell a mythical story of lemmings. It turns out it is mythical. Lemmings don't just all walk up and hurl themselves off a or cliff's edge, if you will, into the water. They try to actually cross bodies of water by hurling themselves, and they're not very bright, and they end up falling in, which may be a better metaphor for Trump people. I don't know. Maybe they don't purposely destroy themselves. They're just too dumb to know the difference. But a couple stories have come out the past few days, and I'm sorry. I'm exhausted, man, woman. It's been 8 years. I've fought against this monster for people, friends, for family, and for everyone else there I don't even know. People I'll never meet because something about cruelty and incompetence and viciousness and destruction bothers me when we could all be working together to improve our lives. We don't have to all agree on every issue. We don't have to agree on the exact tax rate. We don't have to agree on the exact amount of regulation, but a common sense, forward-looking society, you know, like most of Western Europe and Canada and Australia, solve the big problems that these places solve when they have them. But no, we had people that were taken in by disinformation, and obviously a lot of that is on our ridiculous courts for what they allow to be said and done. We have First Amendment extremism. I've talked about that before. A lot of it is the fact the right wing has built up this massive information ecosystem, disinformation ecosystem, and we haven't countered it. That's on our billionaires. And a lot of it is on our pathetic mainstream media I spend lots of time going off on, who don't understand what it is to be media, to be news. They don't even know what their role is in a society. They don't get it. They think it's to sit there and, as a stenographer say, A said this, but B said that. Wonderful. Anybody could do that. Can we get parrots to do your jobs? No, they're supposed to get people truth, but it doesn't let people off the hook, plenty of whom have made clear they know what was coming, or they knew what was coming. Or if they didn't, again, you're a lemming in the stupid sense. What is wrong with you? So Donald Trump spent his time in office attacking unions, as you guys probably know, and attacking really any foreign country having any ownership here. That's the whole thing behind tariffs. It's jingoism. It's rattling the cage. It's xenophobia. It's, tied into wanting to kick immigrants out. It's the whole, we're not going to let those foreigners own us. So it would be shocking, for example, to union steelworkers in Pittsburgh who went against their unions and rallied around Trump, even though all the Republican Party has done since its existence. Even as other parties have changed, one thing's remained constant about the Republican Party. It has always hated unions. It has always attacked unions. And so these folks in Pittsburgh's Mon Valley are now outraged at Trump because he has promised to block a $14.9 billion sale of U.S. steel to Japan's Nippon Steel Company. Wow, what a shock. You mean he's not going to let a foreign country with people that look different than us, non-white people. He's not going to let them take over a company in Pittsburgh, no matter the benefits to everybody, no matter the fact that workers will make more money, their benefits will go up, it'll be better for us. Of course he's not. He's not about that. Remember, he's about attacking people. He's about labeling people by how they look, how they talk, what they like to eat. They're eating the pets. Obviously, I'm joking. He proved who he was. So you guys thought that if a Japanese company came along, for example, that he'd let them take you over. Good work. I don't feel sorry for them in the slightest. In the slightest. And I know others disagree with me, but I don't care. I'm tired. I care about the people who are union workers and the steel workers who did vote for Kamala Harris. That's who I feel sorry for. The ones they quote in this article, I am very frustrated with the news that came out last night. United Steelworkers Local 2227 Vice President Jason Zugai said. I have to look and see if Zugai supported Trump, but being that he's in here, yep, Zugai said he was a Trump supporter who helped organize trips of steelworkers to Trump rallies. Wah, wah, wah. I wish I had that sound effect here. I need to learn how to do that. Sorry, Jason, I don't care. Your family may suffer now. Your income may suffer. And you know what? You voted for it. There are a lot of other steelworkers that didn't, and now they're going to suffer too. So I have no sympathy for you. And then we have the Muslim voting community for Trump. Wow. That takes a lot of that takes turning your brain into a pretzel of sorts, twisted around enough to believe enough that Trump could support Muslims. You see, folks, you guys, people like me fought against the Muslim ban back when Trump was president the first time, said it was racist, outrageous, horrific. People like us pointed out and fought when he wanted to go and bomb various countries in the Middle East because it would be fun. That would be bad. But for some reason, I know we're not going to get into the whole difficulties of the war going on in the Middle East, or there's multiple ones, but let's say Israel and Palestinians and others. But what I will say is this, you may have disagreed with Kamala Harris. You may have thought she didn't go far enough for your taste in protecting the Muslim community, but you thought Donald Trump would protect you. The guy that kept meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, a war criminal, and putting his arm around him, the guy that Bibi Netanyahu endorsed, the guy that said it quite openly when he spoke in large crowds that he wouldn't be asking for any kind of ceasefires. Well, now they feel duped somehow because he went to Dearborn, Michigan and places like that and said to their faces, no, I'll protect you. There we go. Another article. U.S. Muslim leaders who supported Donald Trump to protest against the Biden administration's support for Israel's war, blah, 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 have been deeply disappointed by his cabinet picks. Wow, Fafo, I got news for you. Worse is coming. Trump won because of us, and we're not happy with his Secretary of State pick and others because Marco Rubio said there will be no ceasefire. I got to tell you guys, Marco Rubio doesn't really have opinions on much of anything except for shaking while he drinks water during responses to the State of the Union. He called Trump a con man once, correctly predicted that he'd be selling watches if he hadn't been rich, and he did start doing that. But now Marco Rubio, to become Secretary of State, would have done anything. He would have stood on one leg and hopped for 14 hours while balancing a fork on his nose. He has no principles. So you thought that they were going to do the right thing, and that wouldn't have mattered who Trump picked. Same with Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel, who is a vicious, lying lunatic who once sent out emails to people saying there was a biblical cure for cancer if they just gave him money. He's proven he's a huckster. Huckabee the huckster his entire life, and he believes, of course, in the rapture. So all Jews need to be back in Israel so the good Christians can be raptured up to heaven, and I get to take all of your stuff. Leave behind good records, preferably from the 60s to the late 90s. Make sure your car has been serviced recently. Like, I want good stuff from you guys when you're raptured. Yeah, well, so the Muslim community is mad about that. Said Rabul Chowdhury, a Philadelphia investor who is the head of the Abandon Harris campaign in Pennsylvania and co-founded Muslims for Trump. Wah, wah. I don't care. I hope you are harmed in a way emotionally that the rest of us were by Donald Trump getting elected. I hope you cry. I hope you whimper. I don't want anything to happen to Muslims on the ground in, let's say, Gaza or the West Bank or whatever. In fact, you assured that'll happen. I care more about the Muslim community than you do. You voted for the guy that just said open season. So I'll feel sorry for their pain. I'll feel sorry for the 70% of Muslims who were smart enough to vote for Kamala Harris, who was on their side. Not you, not the 30% who voted for Trump. I won't feel one bit of sympathy for you no matter what happens. I'll save it for the people that are going to suffer in your own community because of your stupidity. And of course, we couldn't finish any of this off without those who may be deported, who voted to be deported. What do you say to people when you see 55% of Latino men vote, breaking records, voting for Donald Trump? What do you say when such a large portion of that population ends up switching over? What I say is I feel sorry for the 45% that were smart enough not to. See, I will never condemn whole groups. That would be Donald Trump who does that. I will condemn the members of that group that are idiots. And again, 45%, but also he went up among the Latina population, among women. What were you voting for? Well, here you go. You get Anna Orozco, who's now voted for Trump. I think she said 3 or 4 times. She said that while she's angered by Trump's racism and anti-immigrant ideals, she voted for him because of the high cost of living. She hopes her young children will eventually be able to buy homes. Okay. But what concerns Orozco is the possible mass deportation, how it could affect her family. You see, her aunt has lived in the U.S. for more than 23 years and doesn't have legal status. According to Donald Trump, she will be deported. You did that, Anna. You helped make that a reality. You and other Latinas like you who voted for that, like white members of unions who voted against their unions and their own interests, like Muslim Americans who voted against their own interests. I think we covered a nice variety of groups here so as to not make anybody think I'm picking on any one group. And I guess I'll finish off by saying again, no FAFO for the one for any member of the groups we just talked about, from union members, white union members, non-white union members, white, non-white Muslims, Latinas who actually voted for Kamala Harris and were smart people, or at least had the common sense of more than, let's say, me, who can't work a microphone. But if you chose to vote for this man after all he said, after all he did, after Muslim bans and deportation and attacking unions his entire first term and making it clear he wasn't going to let foreign companies own American companies, FAFO, guys. FAFO. Couldn't care less about you. Not going to worry about you. Not going to have sympathy for you. And if it hurts, good. Because it hurt the rest of us, what you chose to do. And it hurt people I love or who have lost access to control of their body and what country my kids will now grow up in. So don't come to me for sympathy or help or anything else. I'll help the members of your groups who did the right thing. And that would be Cliff's note for today, everybody. Hopefully you could hear all of that. Hopefully you could see me while I was doing that. And hey, I see Tony now. I'm going to let him in.
Yeah. Can I push back on your FAFO? I'm going to shit in your FAFO cereal, I think.
Dude, are you getting me demonetized already?
Do they demonetize for the shite word? Do they?
I'm not sure. Well, let's see. It's 2:16. I think in the first 10 minutes, but I think we may be out of the danger zone. But try your best to be a child. Try to be a child like I
All
have
right,
to be.
all right. I'll
Like
try
I
to
have
be
to be a child.
good.
No, I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing me, like the way I have to behave like a child and dance like a monkey, apparently, to get them to not make it so that I spend 2 hours here doing this and make $2.17 from it. That actually happened one time when they completely demonetized me.
$2.17. That's
Yeah.
$2.70 more than I made. I'll tell
If
you.
you'd like, I'll send you the check if it's going to help you
Great.
out.
Yeah, you can send me any money you want, buddy.
Okay.
Well,
And all
so
of you, I'll
here's
say quickly before Tony
Yeah.
talks, who are the super stickers. We're going to set up a process for this eventually where I'm going to read out everybody's names who are members at a couple different parts of the show. Oh, yeah. All these things I keep telling you we're planning. Sitting down again tomorrow when I'm not doing a live stream with my favorite admin in the world, and we're going to plan out the different sort of segments of this. So you all will be, everybody will be given their due attention that they deserve for supporting this show. But right now, Tony needs to talk,
Yeah.
and I will mention all you kind folks who have given donations. Have given super chats and stickers after this. Just don't want you to think I'm forgetting you. Go, Tony, go.
So I'm going to push back a
Argue
bit
for
on your
Ozark
path.
America. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to argue for this new narrative that I'm pushing, because I don't think our discourse should be left versus right. I think it should be up versus down, and that paradigm shift of up versus down, because we know that humans are tribal. You probably know this just as well or better than anyone. We're on teams, right? We always want to pick a team.
Better than anybody? Are you implying something there?
Huh? Well, you
There were 13 tribes. One of them got lost and we never found it. So maybe it ended up in the Ozarks for all I know.
Could be. But humans are very tribal, and they like to root for teams. And that's what I was getting at, is because you've got your favorite team, and it clearly is probably the New York Mets. I'm sure it's the Mets.
You can tell by the Mickey mantle up there behind
Right?
me. And
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it's the reason why sports is so commercialized and it's able to be marketable, is because everyone gets to pick their team. They get to be on that team, no matter how good they are, no matter how bad they are, for like decades and decades and decades, and never win a single championship, let alone win a division championship or a game. Right.
Fair.
So knowing that humans have that psychology, my case for the not so FAFO approach is that we change teams. We disband the left team. We disband that team. That team does not exist anymore. We're not on team left anymore, because we're not going to be in this battle of left versus right. So we don't have that team anymore. We are on, when we're on the battlefield of up versus down, we are on the down team, right? We, the people, the great American working class, are on that down team. And I believe us being on that down team, knowing that we have to compete against the up team. So we need as many people on our down team as we possibly can get. So if we stay out of the way of this discourse of left versus right, and this feeling of FAFO that we really crave, because I know the feeling. Oh man, do I want to smear their faces in that pile of dog poop? See, poop.
I mean, the stuff that they smeared on the walls of Congress?
Exactly. Their own poop. Notice I said poop. Is that a word that we can use? Can we use that word? I think
we're going to find out. I mean, apparently,
we can't use that word, man. This monetization stuff's in trouble.
I was going to tell you, eventually, it's just going to be like, hello, Anthony. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
To see you, and you seem very kind. Because that's the point we'll get to. Yeah.
But my argument for not saying I told you so much, or rooting for what they voted for as against their own wallets, against their own interest, I guess, because that's kind of the narrative there, I guess. There's different ways to frame it. I actually liked how you framed it.
Well, it's not just wallets, because I was talking about groups that voted against,
exactly,
who had been banned from this country or going to be deported, and it's broad.
Or they had different ideals about world conflicts and things, and they chose to for whatever reason, either to abstain or to vote, or to whatever their decision was, vote third party, to make sure that the person who is worse for their interest, whether it be their self-interest or their other interest in the world. But if we know human psychology is tribal and this team mentality, then us doing that, I believe, puts us in a position where we have these same old battles, right? Instead of making sure that we disband the teams of the left and the right, and we open up our team to anyone who is on the downside, who wants to play on our team, the great American working class, I think that's going to be a much better position. And that's what I believe is going to be good for discourse. Again, I don't have a magic ball or anything, but I don't know. That's
ball like Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, well,
can I say that?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if you can talk about drug addiction on. I'm sure you can though.
I think if it all depends on how deep you go into it. But here, let me respond in a couple ways.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is we're still only weeks into this thing, and I'm angry, which of course you know.
Yeah.
And I have family members.
Who isn't? Right?
I have family members who, again, lost rights because of this vote. Granted, right now, some of those women's control of their bodies may be legal in Ohio based upon a ballot measure we passed, but a federal ban would take care of that. In addition to that, I have obviously many female friends in other states, Texas, for example, places like that, who have lost complete control of their bodies and are in danger now if they get pregnant. So that's one thing. My kids, who I love dearly, who are teenagers, who had to live through 4 years of this guy, and I tried to explain that to them early on, and now are going to have to live through this horror show where everything we try to teach them about what's right in the world, they're going to see the exact opposite. The lesson they're going to learn is crime pays. You might as well be a bad person, a greedy person, a sloth, and everything else that he is. So that bothers me too. And the third thing I'll say with all that, so first, again, I brought up the anger thing. I'll calm down somewhat, no doubt. But the third thing is, I'm not going to wish this on people. That's not the way I am. I'm not hoping like, get deported, or get banned. I said to you, I'm horrified by what he is going to do in the Middle East.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, I will not feel sorry for the ones who chose to make this happen. I'll feel sorry for many others like them who chose to try to stop this. And so that's a different thing. I'm not wishing harm on people. I'm simply not going to waste an ounce of sympathy for them. And I'm sure as time goes on with all of these things, I will learn to talk about this in a more mature way, in a better way. I'm sure that I will. I
thought it was very mature the way you put it.
Well, thank you. But I do. I think I will embrace people more. I think maybe I'll be in more of a position to say, and I always am in a position to say, we need to win. So I'm always going to be constructive in that way, because I do think we alienated some people, as we've talked about with some of the things that we did. I still don't think they should have been alienated enough to vote for Donald Trump. That still is a place which boggles the mind. But we've been far from perfect. We have excluded certain people. We've told certain people that they are not as, frankly, they're not as worthy as others. And that's on us. So I think all of that will combine together, and I'll be in a different place. But when I read these articles, I seem to be reading one after another about these people that voted for Trump whining at this particular moment. I mean, we're not even the Trump presidency.
He's not even the president
hasn't
yet.
Even started, and we're 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks since the election, 5 weeks. So I'm sorry, at this moment when I see them whining already, it just pisses me off even more.
So can I go to one of your points there, because I it's not that I don't want FAFO. Okay. Is that how you say it? FAFO? FAFO?
It is.
FAFI?
FAFO.
Yeah, FAFO. Here's what I want the audience, and maybe to convince other commentators of this, is that we can have FAFO. We can have FAFO, but our FAFO should not be directed towards the people who voted for Trump. It should be Trump himself and the other politicians and the oligarch mafia. So
I definitely have it for them.
Yeah. So when we present our FAFO, if we present our FAFO towards the common enemy in the up versus down team competition, then those people who are on the down with us, even though they may not have the same ideological points, or they may not be on the political spectrum exactly where we are, that team positioning is now we can aim our FAFO up.
I understand what you're saying. Yours is
so that's
is
kind
much
of my.
smarter.
I'm trying to get that paradigm shift in my brain.
No, I mean yours is much smarter in terms of political messaging, anyhow. And I understand your point. And again, as I said, especially as somebody who does political strategy or certainly has done it, I'll get there because obviously I want to win.
Sure, and that's why I want to bring up the point that we need to win. You said we need to win, and I think that's a better winning strategy eventually.
I agree. It is.
And again, this is the important part, because I do got to jump here. The important part is that we can have important conversations like this without trying to like outwoke each other or cancel each other. Like, we can have reasonable conversations where we express our feelings, we express the things that we're seeing, and we can have meeting of the minds, as it might be called, when we get to that particular point that we need to deploy these strategies of strategic outrage or the FAFO, as you call it. I call it strategic outrage, but FAFO in the upward direction towards the oligarch mafia.
And the last thing I'll say, which is also I think relevant here, is you can also have quiet and silent FAFO, and what you project outside can be one of trying to win people over. And so if I do not get over this in the manner in which I hope, I mean, again, I always want to be a better person. I don't want to sit there and sort of ever take pleasure in people being hurt. But I'm angry right now, and I'm not going to deny it. Very angry. So that affects some of it. And if that lingers and that doesn't go away in the manner in which I hope, I will be more quiet about it, and I will be much louder about inclusivity and winning people over, because I've done that plenty of times in elections before. There are plenty of people that trust me, I haven't wanted to walk into a room with, but if we could win their vote, you win the election. That's what an election is about. It's about putting together a coalition to win, and then all of us benefit more and we move forward together, which is what I talked about at the beginning of that, or what Kamala Harris was offering. I still want that. So yeah, that will be one way or another. I'll be saying the right things at the right times. This is a moment in time, and it's a moment in time when I'm not particularly pleased at what I'm seeing on a daily basis in terms of who's being nominated and Elon Musk's role, unelected oligarchic role in this administration. And yeah, we are going to have to all unite in the end, as you and I have discussed separately, and take on the ridiculous, punitive, I would say almost criminal. Yeah, no, not almost criminal. Billionaire class that is, it's not every one of them, as I point out. Sometimes there are a couple of good folks in there, but overall, a class of people that have pillaged and ripped money from everybody else in every way possible. There was just a story on some of them and how they use a loophole to not pay Medicare taxes. It's like 30 or 40 years old. Did you cover that?
No, but I've got one more thing that I said yesterday, is that billionaires commit more crime than the great American working class, and it's not even close.
Oh my gosh.
Not even close.
Average day.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
So basically our oligarchic overlords and our monopolistic companies that are destroying our freedom of choice in terms of good products, the quality of our products, our environment, the wages of workers and the rest. Yeah, I'll definitely be on board for that, because I've been screaming against monopolies forever now.
Well, let's yell and scream about monopolies. I think that's good. Cliff, thanks for having me on.
Tired of the microphone monopoly here.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thanks for having the conversation, because I think it's an important conversation about where we go with the messaging and stuff.
My key point, Tony, has been, and you've said the same thing, is it angers me when people do call each other out in disrespectful ways and try to destroy each other and do all this stupid stuff. Because again, unless our conversation is about something ridiculous, like, is Jim Crow good or bad? No, that's not a
bad faith arguments.
I'm not having a conversation with somebody about that, at all. But when it's stuff like this, when it's stuff that are legitimate discussions, we have to be able to talk about it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Well, thanks for letting me discuss it. Absolutely. I will see you soon, my friend.
You absolutely will. Take it easy, dude. All right. Tony Michaels. You may know him as the great Tony Michaels from his Tony Michaels podcast. And I think a lot of you came over here from there. So Michael McAndrews gives me a yep, Cliff. I'm going to say, cool, thank you. And again, like, I don't tell you all to feel the way I feel. And I don't know that I'll feel this way in 2 weeks, but I think that's the right I have to express right now. I want to thank all the kind folks here before we have our great guest arrive. We have Fuzzy 1Z, a new member. Thank you. So I've told you the membership hopefully it starts on Monday. Explosive. The new benefits and the new way I'm going to concentrate at both Patreon and YouTube members, as opposed to spending way too much time in the past on Twitter and recently on Blue Sky. Yes, I'm still in Blue Sky and I'm not leaving, but you guys deserve more of my attention. I'm going to be here making more videos on the community wall, sharing more stuff. That can be my Blue Sky. And Patreon, putting up posts and YouTube members. So Peter, the $20 super sticker, fantastic. In fact, I should put you all up on the screen. So Fuzzy 1Z, who became a YouTube member, thank you very much. You are outstanding. Peter, was it a dog or a wolf? Very cute either way. $20 super sticker. I really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. JD Christie with a 99-cent super sticker. Yes, I believe if I remember JD Christie, that's a regular number. You do this a lot, and I can't tell you that how much I appreciate that. So thank you. And Nikki Oliver with a $2 super sticker. Thank you so much too. That is a fantastic way to start the show, where that happens, where I don't even have to mention to you guys that to please support what I'm doing here, to please join, to please become members, to please give super chats and everything, so I can continue to do what I'm doing right now, which is honestly spending most of my time on this, not the actual thing that pays me my living, because that's gotten into a place where I don't have to spend nearly as much time. But I really want to make this sustainable economically so I can do it and put in this time. So I really, anything you guys could do to support me. And as I always say, not if it's going to hurt you in any way, because, my doing this show isn't more important than you attending college, sending your kids to college, having healthcare, feeding anybody. You know that. And I hope you know that all that stuff you need your funds for comes first, second, third, up to about 427,000th. But if you can, this is very helpful. Sheldon Hughes with a $2 super sticker. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That is fantastic. I'm going to make sure we don't have a problem. And also, I think, thank you, Jim. You put up before the YouTube in general. Right now we have, a rather decent subscriber base. I'm going to look right now where we are. Yesterday, you guys helped me go up 99,260. If you guys will go over right now please come back. Don't leave forever. But if you go over to @Cliffs_edge, you can get that. I think by the time this show's over, we got to have that number above 99,400 at least, right? Come on. Yesterday it went up by about 200, I think, while we were on the show. So let's do that. And then I think even tomorrow, just videos and random, other stuff tomorrow, and posts, and Saturday and Sunday, we may be able to, and Monday, get there by the Tuesday edition. Wouldn't that be great? I want to make sure Zachy is okay and will arrive. I even have his bio here, so he may just be running a little bit late. That's what I'm hoping, that he's not having trouble coming in. Robin M, a little stocking stuffer. Stocking stuffers are nice. We like them in our house. Stockings are great. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. And that's right, I see you right now, Holly Fafo. So you may have enjoyed the Holly, the name of my little Cliff's note today. Let's see. Zachy, where are you? Keep talking to you guys, and I will. And hell, we'll just talk the whole show. But I just want to make sure that there's not something going on that's not allowing him to get in here. You know what? 1 second, folks. We'll see. Let's see. Trouble getting in. All right. He may just be a little late. I'm hoping that's what we have going on. All right. Look at that. Yo, Wyatt is back. Skip Weaver and Wyatt. A super sticker for 99 cents. Thank you. And just for that well thought out and rather long name. I have to enjoy what you're doing. Look at that. Starlene says she was trying to recruit a new follower. We like that. Seriously, the more people you get here, the more people you get to subscribe. YouTube gives me theoretically more ad revenue if they don't partially monetize me, and of course the Patreon and but I think actually, you know what, once the we get going with what we're putting up at Patreon and the YouTube members, which again is the same thing, it's two separate sides of the same coin, you all want to join because there's going to be so much extra stuff there, and you know, once I sort of I've again blue skyified myself by about 75%. Again, I think it's a good place. I'm not leaving. I think there's a little too much of people talking to each other and other stuff. I don't love it. It's much better than Twitter. I'm going to be there. I think it's important to communicate with people in different places, but I sort of started doing a lot of thinking and thought, why am I putting up stuff there for free? You guys are kind enough. You're paying me your hard-earned money at Patreon, and as YouTube members, you should be getting that. And I started thinking also about, you know, I mean, it's time management. If I'm there, I'm not giving you what you deserve as far as I'm concerned. And not giving me anything over there. You guys are awesome and supporting me. And then also the community wall. Like, those are folks that are subscribed. And if you just by subscribing and showing up to live streams, you should get more stuff, things, stocking stuffers, as it was said. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll even have like meetups and stuff. I don't know if you guys are up for that or not. Maybe you'll meet me in person. You'll be less impressed. Maybe you'll be more impressed. Who knows? I know there's some folks who reached out to me who are from the Cincinnati area or the greater area around here. I also from New York City originally and still have family, so I'm back there constantly. Back in the DC area, a decent amount. A few other places I go. All right. What's this? Amy Jackson, Facebook removed and banned all my posts the last 2 to 3 days. Do we know why that happened? That seems odd and insane. And I was going to start streaming there soon too. That's another plan I have for next week, dude. There's maybe a partnership in the offing, a rather large page where we may stream and bring some new folks along until I get my Facebook page worked out. I think I've told you all before. I have one that is started off as like, you know, family, friends, and then people saw me or read my book or saw me in a show and said, "Hey, can I join?" And I didn't vet them like, you know, I should have. Like with you guys, if you ask me to, I just, you know, make sure you are who you say and all of that. We're good. But I don't like putting up personal stuff in a place that I don't know where everybody is, and I don't like putting up political stuff if it's going to lead to me getting in fights with family members, which I don't need. So I'm trying to separate those out. I don't love Facebook. I see people talking about it in here. And maybe, you know, this is the blue sky. I do encourage you to follow me. I will do stuff there. I just want to make sure that like people understand that that will not be the priority. That stuff, you know, that's tied into the YouTube channel. It includes, you know, doing more shorts and then putting those up with TikTok will add to what I do there, which is now almost nothing. I've done nothing at all in a while now at Instagram. We're going to make that more vibrant. Again, places where people want to be, where they can get this kind of content. Chipmunk Milk said, nope, I'm done helping capitalist billionaires this year. We've created family to make meaningful gifts this year. So I don't know what that means exactly. There may be a conversation going on in there that I am not aware of. But I don't know. Are we fighting over various capitalists right now, or over billionaires? I'm kind of looking through. Seems like there may be an interesting conversation going on. This is very true, Jason. This is the constant problem. This is Rome. This is, Greece. This is past republics. It's why no republic has ever lasted forever, and we have to break that record to do it, which is people get fat and happy. Think about World War II. I mean, I always like to point out to people as a baseball fan, Joe DiMaggio went and fought. Ted Williams went and fought. Did not matter. They could have gotten killed, but they went and they fought like everybody else. Now we can't even be bothered to ask regular upper middle class people to go fight our wars. It's only if you have to pay for college or join in the military just to make a living. And then, we send you off and like we ignore the war unless something big happens, like an explosion that the media can cover and get clicks or whatever. It's just like we're not fighting the war at all. During World War II, you couldn't get a car. They were all making tanks and armored vehicles and things of that sort, all the car companies, because they were in on the war effort, right? You couldn't get a house built. Those factories were building all sorts of other things for our war effort. You see, we used to be whether we were right or we were wrong, and I'm not saying that was a better time because clearly racism, sexism, every ism was far worse. But I am saying that we were a society and we've gotten so rich and sort of fat and lazy as a society that this is when you tend to get to a point where you forget what it is that made you great. Trump will not make America great again. He couldn't make his products he made in China great again. He can't make casinos great again. He fails at that. He can't make any of his marriages great again. He can't make anything. But somebody could make America great again by taking us back to, the values we had in the past where we built things here. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did do that. 800,000 manufacturing jobs created here. CHIPS Act. We had a big Intel plant put up in Columbus, 2 hours north of here. And the people believe that Trump was better on the economy. There are ways to bring us back to where we were before and be even better than that because there'll be more equality for all groups of people, but not doing it right now. All right. I'm getting concerned. Zachy, where are you, man? 2 new messages. I was worried I should have sent him something. I was like, did he think it was a different time zone? And he did. I never thought about that. I thought he knew it was Eastern. I thought I'd said that. I'm just telling him to join as soon as he can. Should have thought that he might be out on the West Coast as a movie critic. Arrogance is our downfall, boastful arrogance. That's a part of it. Again, that's part of what the whole thing, when you get fat and lazy and take everything for granted and stop feeling like, start getting selfish. I like to say, my point is always that we started going in a divergent direction from Western Europe when Reagan won here. The United Kingdom did to a certain degree, but Margaret Thatcher couldn't even do there what Reagan did here because parliamentary system and other things, but also because they had some of that stuff. They passed their universal health care right after World War II. Some of the things had already been put in place that we had not, and we were trending in that direction, heading towards. A lot of people do not know this, but we were so far to the left of where we are now on economic issues that Richard Nixon offered Teddy Kennedy, who was leading the Senate, something that looked a lot like Obamacare. And we could have had that in the early 70s. But Teddy Kennedy was sure, just because of the state of where things were in general, that we were going to get something much more akin to Medicare for all, and did not accept it. And you can blame Teddy if you like or not, but I understand we were in a different time period. We actually had a handgun control Inc. Movement to ban them all because obviously the Supreme Court hadn't made up their completely non-existent lying and fake argument on that issue yet, that there's any individual right to anything. Like we were, again, on most things trending where Europe was. And then Reagan came in and pushed this notion. It goes against the very heart of democracy, which is that we're all in this together, the public good, the public square, that we give up certain of our individual rights so that we all can enjoy it. And he convinced people that no, man, I get to do whatever I want. I get to, it's all about me. And that includes, You called me Cliffy. You said happy holidays, which you could have said if you wanted anything else, because I don't get offended. But it was nice because some people do. And $50. That is incredibly nice and incredibly appreciated, Barbara. Thank you so much. That will make an enormous difference. Where was I? Oh, yeah. And so we headed off in a direction, everybody being selfish. And we've seen what that's done. It got that way. I got to be careful because this is YouTube. It got that way, let's say, about healthcare decisions. How about that? It got that way about what what kind of weaponry you own. It got that way about, I hate that I have to do this. I'm sorry. It got that way, it was you. It doesn't matter how it affects somebody else. Me, lower my taxes, lower my regulations, and that has harmed our society. So we've forgotten that there's a common good. That was what democracy, that's its whole premise. And in any case, Zachy is here. I'm going to let him in and apologize because I should have known he's cool. He must live out in the West Coast. He does stuff with movies. And, it's not that hard to say the word Eastern, and I did not do it. Zachy Hassan, everybody. How are you?
Hey, Cliff. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, man. Now I feel like a jerk. I'm sorry
please
about
don't.
that.
No, I didn't ask, so it's just hey, hopefully better late than never. Hopefully.
So you're saying it was don't ask, don't tell here, and we both
unintentionally, yeah.
Unintentionally. Well, you still look, obviously for you, this, you're used to this stuff. You got the cool shirt on. I can see that. The hair is looking good. You got the LA look going on. I'm going to read you Zachy's bio because it's pretty cool. Zachy Hassan is an award-winning media scholar and critic. Let's see if I can read, Zachy. Critic of more than 25 years. His film and television reviews have appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle, The Wrap, IGN, Birth, Movies, Death. That sounds kind of cool. HuffPost, Philly Weekly. Wow, you've been a lot of stuff. Fandor, and he hosts the Movie Film Podcast with TV. I was listening to that the other day, by the way. That's when I thought of having you on with Brian Hall. He also co-wrote Geek Wisdom, The Sacred Teachings of Nerd Culture. Well, you're going to have to tell us about that. It's contributed to books on the Star Wars, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, and Blade Runner franchises. Dude, you've covered everything I like in the world. All right. Well, listen, I had you on in some sense to talk about Gladiator 2 because I heard you talking about that on there, and it's funny. I had a similar take to you on that. As the original one, I like to say to people, to me is a 12 out of 10, and I kind of would say the second one is more of a 8.5. Out of 10. I think you guys gave it a B-. Like I give it more of a B to a B+. So maybe, yeah. but why not? First, why don't we do this? We'll move on to all the cool stuff you do, but you also comment on things politically. I see on there. I don't know if you're comfortable doing that as a general factor. I think you are because I feel like I've seen it on Twitter and
absolutely.
Blue Sky. Are you in LA?
I'm in the Bay Area.
Oh, you're in the Bay Area. Okay. So what's the feelings of somebody out there who saw all this insanity happen and Trump win and, any number of other negative things occur on election day and where our sad little country is right now?
Yeah, I try to bear in mind that the Bay Area is sort of this progressive bubble, and I'm conscious of how I feel about all of this, and just the people. Obviously, I'm in academia, so I know that that's going to lean a certain way as well, and so I would say that it's deeply frustrating, it's deeply confusing, but by virtue of the fact, I grew up in the Midwest, and I have plenty of friends and family still out there. And this past summer, I was
Where'd you grow up?
Chicago.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was this past summer. I was surprised by how many of my old friends were diehard MAGA guys, and really so I suspected it. This is my only point. What happened on election night was disappointing. It was not surprising to me because I felt like I had been reading the tea leaves for a while. So even with Kamala Harris coming on and the enthusiasm on our side, I was like, I think the Bay Area is a bubble, and I'm not taking that for granted. And so I'm supremely disappointed, but I was not surprised at all.
Yeah, I thought she was going to win only because of I knew these individual little things that were happening that were worrying me. Right,
Mhm.
I knew there were some people that I had known that voted for Biden last time, and now they were sort of Republicans, but they had voted for Biden. We're like, well, maybe I mean, Kamala Harris didn't have a real primary. I was like, oh, give me a break. I mean, the things they would find to say meant me know that let me understand that right wing media was reaching them with all of this garbage, and that there were bigger forces out there. I still thought we were going to win, but yes, I knew, and obviously I didn't know till after, and more recently, like every incumbent party in the world's been losing. People just, I don't think ever fully recovered from COVID. I think
Yeah.
it isolated a lot of people. I think there was mental illness went along with that, and I think some of that led to some of this because I think when you become isolated, you become angry and resentful, and um, who knows? I mean, there's plenty of other factors too, but I didn't want to go into it deeply with you. But well, no, not because like I didn't tell you the right time to come on, and I'm so interested in hearing what you have to say about. I mean, you must see a lot of these themes. Obviously, it's not that hard to see. Let's say when you see Star Wars, you're like, hey, look, stormtroopers. Wow, where'd they get that name from? Or, like X-Men. Where'd they come up with that? Like, was any of that an interest to you in getting into this? I mean, did social justice play any role in it, or was it all just like you just thought this stuff was really cool, which is a completely awesome and as good answer. I'm just wondering.
That is such a great question. I don't know that I've ever thought about it in that way. I'd like to believe that my, just the way I view the world and my relationship with other people is at least partly affected by, the pop culture that I've internalized, and the concepts. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about, and if you know me at all, you know how much I love Superman. I got Batman behind me, but Superman is still my boy.
Okay.
And somebody was like, why Superman? And I was like, because he what he models is decency. His greatest power is that he can do everything and he uses it to help people. And
Yeah.
I'm like, if that's not a lesson any of us can learn, which is we all have our skills, we have things we can do. Use what you can do to help other people, and that's something I've grown
No,
up
I mean, that is a
admiring.
good way to do it. Whereas Batman is the vengeful. I'm just putting your name in here because there are people who are asking. Folks, I don't always put the names of guests in maybe I should start doing that again. I'm learning like everybody else on the fly in the descriptions, and I probably should. So I'm going to make sure I spell it right. And I don't know, Jim, you should be able to, if you be able to find, oh, there we go. Look, Jim always beats me to everything. No, I put up the wrong thing. There you go. Media critic,
Wow.
author. Look at all these places you can find him. And I
It's
read
terrifying.
exactly. You can find him. I've read you the things. I mean, I didn't just discover this guy by accident. Now, I love all this stuff. So I am a big movie fan. I am a big, Marvel Universe, DC Universe. Maybe wasn't always as good, but some aspects of it have been awesome. And some of the Marvel ones, geez, I saw the new one. What's it called? Got like a 9% Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, the Craven, the new one.
Yeah,
Craven
I hope
Hunter?
it's not that bad. Because
I'm
we're going to go
seeing
see
it.
it.
I'm seeing it tonight, so I'll let you know.
You have to let me know. So okay, so you love all that stuff. What is your favorite kind of? Do you have a favorite genre? I mean, is it more of the comic book movies? Is it more of an action movie like a Gladiator type thing? Like, what's your? You obviously love Superman, but what's your real?
Whenever people ask me what's my favorite kind of movie, the answer I give, and I promise this is not a cop-out answer, it's the truth. I like good movies. So in other words, I'm willing to go into any genre and be pulled in, and I love that experience. So
Yep.
Obviously the stuff, I have an affinity for the sci-fi and whatnot, but I mean, there's plenty of not great stuff there. But there's no better experience for me than to go into a movie with no idea what to expect, or maybe even be like, I don't know about this, and walk out being like, whew, that blew my hair back. That's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I have to admit, like, I have a soft spot for in these movies. First of all, I love like the the ones, what I've liked about the Marvel universe is when they've taken risks, and they've done something like, when you get like a Logan, you know what I mean? When they feel like, okay, that's actually a Western sort of, and it's sad, and it's, he happens to be a superhero, as opposed to, when they've done those kind of things. I got to tell you, what still my favorite, and it will be, is Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Sure.
And what I love about that, especially in this moment, right, is you've got this negative force in your own government, this almost like this parasite that's been there forever, that is working against the people. This sense of paranoia is in the air. And I love those 70s movies like The Parallax View. Great little story here. 3 Days of the Condor was filmed in Peter Cooper Village, New York City, where I grew up.
Wow.
So I do not remember this, but I've been told they filmed this, not the whole thing, but there was this big scene when Max von Sydow is trying to take him out with a rifle, if you remember that. He goes up into an apartment building, gets in an elevator, and he's trying to avoid him. That was filmed. We're in the area, literally in one of the buildings next to the one I grew up in. And, Robert Redford's just kind of wandering around Peter Cooper. And apparently my parents took me out there. I think I was 3, something like that, and we saw him. And that's what I loved about The Winter Soldier, is that in a callback to that, they were making quite obvious what kind of movie this is supposed to be. This a spy thriller in a way, like one where you don't trust your own government. You don't know who's against you. And they cast, of course, Robert Redford in one of the main roles in that movie. And I loved it. And I loved, like, the gunfights, okay, whatever. I love the kind of martial arts fighting scenes. That is my favorite in movies. So it's funny because we have a debate in my family. My kid, my older son loves, Tony Stark. I'm like, Tony Stark's awesome. I like, and by the way, Elon Musk is nothing close to that. So everybody who fell for that, like me, not that. He'd be like Tony Stark, but if Tony Stark got about 45% more pale, put on about 215 pounds, didn't have the armor on, and tried to listen into everybody's conversations and screamed and yelled at them and told them that he was right and they were wrong. And if he'd made his money off of apartheid. Okay, so now we can move on. But he loved, he loves that. But to me, and not to say I don't love that character, and that character arc definitely in the final movie was incredible. But I love those scenes, like those scenes in The Winter Soldier and other stuff where he's jumping over the car and kicking the knife out of his hand, and they're going back and forth. And I don't know, it's probably why I like the John Wick movies. It's probably why I like Black Panther a lot. Is up there almost with that movie with me. I like those kinds of fight scenes, and so those get me more. So I love that movie. That that's kind of an example for me. And
Winter Soldier is kind of the best one of those. Certainly the first few batches of those MCU movies.
Yeah. I mean, again, and I'm not, everybody gets the right to their opinion. They don't have to agree with me, but that one will always be there for me. Okay. So here we go. Somebody's saying Russell Crowe has really let himself go since Gladiator. The thing about Russell Crowe is at least it used to be that, much like Robert De Niro, he would switch up for every role. The amazing transformation from when he did The Insider, where he put on a whole bunch of weight to look like the character, and then got into this buff, guy that was going to beat you down in the arena. And I think, if I'm right, The Insider was a year before the Gladiator.
Yeah, he went from one right to the next. Yeah.
So, that transformation, it makes me think of De Niro in Cape Fear, or where he's muscular as hell, or, in, when he played Pacino in The Untouchables and put on a bunch of weight, same kind of thing. So in case, again, Gladiator is an all-time great to me, up there with The Godfathers, up there with Apocalypse Now, up there, I mean, I love it. And it sounded like, from what you were saying, you're on on your podcast, you're in the same place. Is that right?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. My co-host Brian and I, we actually recorded a commentary track for the first Gladiator just before seeing the second one. And so, that was actually a great experience of just really being able to go through and talk through, the things that jumped out at us. And it really, I remember watching that movie opening night, and I was probably 20. I was 20 going on 21. And it really, it knocked me on my feet, because it was it was something that it was the type of movie we weren't really seeing a ton of. I think there had been Braveheart a couple of years before that, but
Yep.
those big sort of sword and sandal type thing, right? Gladiator brought it back for a couple of years there, and so it's a master class of the type of movie that was being made at that era. And I don't, even Gladiator 2, which I think is effective, and we have many of the same people involved. It's not on the same tier to me as the first one.
Yep.
And it can't be, it can't be.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. So because I have certain biases, right? I told you, I mean, the sort of, I mean, it's not the same thing as the martial arts to me, but sword fighting, that kind of stuff, like that all appeals to me. I'm a guy who went to the point of like, never got my dissertation, as I love to point out, but PhD history level, like Roman history, I love. We were actually just there, my family, this summer, and like it was so cool to see the second one after I'd been to Rome before, but it'd been a while after seeing the Colosseum again and all of that. And then, of course, there's the parallels to, what we're dealing with here, bread and circuses and leaders using, here it may be the WWE instead of Gladiator, but it's the same kind of, bravado and take people's attention away from the real problems of the poor and the suffering with all the tough macho kind of, circuses. I mean, spectacles that Trump creates and all of that. So, okay. So even the first one, because, Bush in office, who wasn't Trump, but was really bad. And all that. So I have a natural affinity, but I was going to tell you, like, I was going to ask you from your perspective, what makes that movie so amazing? Because I feel like I know the reasons I do, but I'm not a film critic like you. So what makes it rise above other films of that ilk? Because I can't answer that question. I mean, I can in individual parts like I just did, but I don't know if I can as a whole, and maybe you can.
Well, I can certainly offer my perspective. Yeah, I think the framework that the story exists, the story is hung on, is a pretty familiar story. It's not really reinventing the wheel. I've said in the past, if you watch Ben-Hur, very very similar to Gladiator. The Count of Monte Cristo, very very similar to it's familiar, and I think that's part of its appeal. What makes it distinctive is, well, two things. Number one, we were just talking about Russell Crowe. I think you have anyone else but Russell Crowe in that movie, I don't know if it works as well as it does. They had offered it to Mel Gibson, and I mean, this is current day.
So it wouldn't have been Mel Gibson as he's being struck down saying Jews have caused all the wars in the world.
Yeah, a couple years before that, and he turned it down. He did The Patriot that year, and he, he's fine in that movie. But I definitely think the right person got it, and actually also
incredible in that role. But definitely
in The Patriot, and it's weird.
I was going to say I actually do think Mel Gibson was very good in Patriot. I liked him in Lethal Weapon. It's very tough for me to watch him now because I hate him as a human being.
I have to create this mental barrier for anything. Like, I don't watch anything of his recently, but like pretty much all the stuff of his that I used to like, I still like. So I have to kind of create like this iron barrier in my head to be like, that's Martin Riggs. That's not Mel Gibson.
And you know what really pisses me off now is jerk Sylvester Stallone had to go and do the same damn thing. He kept his mouth shut for so long.
Yeah, dude.
He even had come out for some common sense, more moderate policy when I was doing stuff on universal background checks and things like that. Like, he had come out for some of that, and I mean, calls Trump the second George Washington at Mar-a-Lago. I was like, you're killing me. And he's got a new, Rocky movie coming out, and like, I don't know that I want to see it anymore. Yeah. And I loved Creed, and the original Rockies, and some of the other stuff he was in. I mean, I never thought he was a particularly terrific actor, but he gave it some oomph to it, and he's shockingly, when he talks, you would think he's not a very bright person, but wrote a lot of those screenplays. And now, I mean, thanks, dude. You got to go Mel Gibson me. So now, like, I mean, I'm just going to go back and watch all the old Schwarzenegger ones, man. He came out harshly and smartly and very in an educated way, even talking about his own dad's experience of how his dad was broken by his association with the Nazi party because he realized how terrible that had been, even though his dad wasn't like a killer or anything. And Schwarzenegger came out and wholeheartedly ripped Trump and endorsed Kamala Harris. So I guess I guess I'm gonna have to pick my action stars. I don't know. You're right. The older ones, like it's gonna be hard to not watch the original Rocky again or whatever. But I don't want to as much anymore. I didn't mean to get into that political side.
No,
of the
it's
conversation,
disappointing. It's definitely disappointing.
But I do think what you're saying, Russell Crowe, from the toughness to even tenderness at times, right? Like he brought everything to that role.
I think that the very first scene of Gladiator is Russell Crowe as Maximus looking at a bird and just sort of lost in the moment and the beauty of that. And you see the wonder play on his face before he kind of looks at the battlefield and he hardens. And that right there, and you don't realize it necessarily in that first viewing, but you realize how essential that is to get a beat on the character. And then obviously we have the terrific moment when he discovers his wife and son and got just the snot and everything.
Gosh.
the snot.
Gosh.
The snot that won him an Oscar,
Yes, a lot of snot and a lot of drool, and
he went for it, and it's really that's so important, right? Because to me, that entire movie builds up to when he takes his helmet off, he turns and faces Joaquin Phoenix and says, "My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius," and everybody in the audience at that moment is kind of leaning forward,
among great movie speeches.
Yeah, right.
It's a moment. I mean, again, it wasn't really a speech, but sort of like Avengers Assemble, where you just want to get up and cheer. You know, I mean, yeah.
We were just talking about Stallone. David Morrell, who wrote First Blood, the novel First Blood, he talked about how one of the essential parts of that story that makes it work, and First Blood, both the book and the film are terrific, but Morrell uses the concept of righteous vengeance and the idea that if you push your character hard enough, then we as the audience sort of sign off on whatever that character needs to do in order to exact vengeance because it is righteous. Right. And I think Gladiator is a great example of that, because what happens to Maximus is so far beyond the pale. And he's shown to us as such a decent person that we're with him and we're like, boy, just beat the shit out of Commodus, and I think that's why it works. So it is a predictable story, but that's why it works, he
does the right thing also in a way that, like, he wants to give up power in the George Washington rejecting the crown, and the famous general was based upon Cincinnatus, which the city I'm sitting in right now is actually named after. Who did not accept, who decided to walk away because it should be a republic and it should not be an empire. So it all goes back. Yeah, right. Crazy. I'm sure we'll hear that from Trump at some point. So to me, the second one, I don't know, guys. I don't want to ruin it but I don't know what to do here because this makes it tougher. But I will say, everybody knows who's in it. Like, I think there are a lot of great parts of it. Part of it for me, the Pedro Pascal character is
so good.
The one that has the charisma of Maximus. And I don't feel like we maybe saw him enough. I thought he was terrific in the role that he played. But, and again, I don't like to, let's just say that, Lucius turning around so quickly and defending him after wanting to destroy him. I know I'm now giving away certain things, but it's hard not to, folks. I hope you saw it, and I hope you will still see it no matter what. There were some things that, and there's always some things in these movies that are hard to believe that, somebody has an emotional change so quickly, right? Right. I always think about, talk about another one, what was it, Batman versus Superman or whatever, and all he has to do is hear the name Martha, and it's like Ben Affleck wanted to murder him the whole movie. Now he's like, wait, he's my friend. This sort of felt as unbelievable as that he could turn around so quickly about is this how we treat our heroes? I've seen it twice now, so I get it, and I really like it. I just didn't think it had that grand. It's sort of like that grand character that you have in Gladiator. The first Gladiator is now split maybe between a few characters in the second one.
I agree with that.
And Lucilla, I can't think of her name in real life. Oh, Connie Nielsen, she's terrific, as she always is. Wonder Woman's mom, so she made her way from Greek.
That's right.
Roman again. And I don't think there's anything else that kind of, and look, the Denzel Washington trick, because you kind of think he's going to be like Oliver Reed, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to, and I love that too.
They did a good job with that.
So it's sort of for me, the drama / action movie is my favorite, right? And that could be in the sci-fi realm, or that can be in the, like a Logan, or that can be in the sort of, in just an action movie realm. But like I thought about Gladiator, and obviously, there are things that aren't believable. There are things that are. I don't know. Was in the second one, what was up with those monkeys? They looked like wolves almost. And
yeah, I was like, I don't think monkeys do that. I that felt like something out of that felt very sci-fi. That was kind of my realization watching this movie. I'm like, this has as much to do with ancient Rome as as Star Wars does or something. This is like a fantasy world, and I'm like, I just need to divorce myself from any notion of this being reflective of real history and just take it as this is Westeros. It's just
right.
It's its own. It's the gladiator world, and we're just
right.
living in it.
There you go. But so to give you another one that has that effect on me, again, it may just because it's funny, we were just talking about him, but the lead performer's role is maybe what it is Training Day, where
sure.
I want to, like when I combine drama and action, like I just want to see that movie again and again and again, because Denzel Washington is such a tour de force. As much as you hate him, he's just amazing, right? I feel like he occupies that role. Again, I'm a novice. You're the pro. Tell me if I'm wrong. But I feel like he inhabits that role in the same manner in which, Russell Crowe does.
Absolutely, yeah. And those movies were just a year apart, I think, right? Gladiator, yeah, because Denzel won the Oscar the year after for Training Day.
Oh, look at that! That's right. They both won the Oscars for those. Well, man, those are 2 good years.
So you picked up on something.
I guess so. I mean, they those and again, those all had great. Was Scott Glenn in that? Like they all had great supporting casts. Obviously, Ethan Hawke, and that helped make those movies so good. Other stuff like that you would say is out there in any of these realms that you love right now,
recent stuff.
Yeah, recent movies you've loved that you say to people. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're a couple years old, right? We can, as we were joking earlier about, I think YouTube, they'll probably demonetize me just for saying it. YouTube TV, is like raising its price up to like $84 or.
I'm so mad about that. Can I just tell you?
So we're joking. We're like, remember, because one of my big things that I will talk incessantly about when I talk about politics is our monopoly economy and how it destroys everything from workers to the environment to enriching people to a point where they're dangerous to democracy and all that kind of stuff. And like, we all like, yeah, we can cut the cable cord. Look at that. We're all going to just watch these apps. There's, it's only $7.99 a month and only whatever. And then of course now, like you have 47 of them and they all cost a lot more than they used to. So it's like, I need Amazon, Disney Plus or whatever plus, Amazon. What am I looking for? What's the second word in there? Whatever it is, their video service.
Prime Video.
Thank you. Prime Video and Disney Plus and, Netflix and Hulu. And it's like Apple Plus and all of this. It's like it's kind of changed the landscape, let's say. And now it's probably more expensive than it used to be.
I cut the cord exactly 10 years ago, 2014. And at that time I had Prime, Hulu, and Netflix. And so I was looking at about, whatever it was, like $28, something like that, 20, less than $25, I think.
Yeah.
And at this point, between the streaming services and freaking YouTube TV, I'm easily spending more than I was spending on cable 10 years ago. So boy, they shafted us good.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Don't regulate industries and they will do this. Any case, so we got all these streaming services that we're all overpaying for. What do you recommend that the last couple of years would have been kind of some of your favorites, and even if you want to talk about some stuff out like this year, I don't know, whatever you got for me.
I'll tell you, this has been a movie I've been recommending people, and they're like, seriously? But I kid you not, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is Red One, the new Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans Christmas movie, which is on Prime Video today.
Okay,
and unfortunately,
I like both of them. So
well, this is the thing. I think The Rock's sort of persona has begun to grate on people.
A bit,
I can definitely see that, and I think this is a movie that actually leans into her persona in a good way, and ultimately there's a message at its core that I like, and I'm not Christian, I don't celebrate Christmas, but uh, even still, this is a message about Christmas that I find very compelling, and I took all my kids to see it, and they all really enjoyed it, and so I would say give it a shot. I think.
Okay.
Great banter between Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. They're terrific together. Chris Evans clearly having fun. This is I always say this is Johnny Storm era Chris Evans as opposed to Captain America Chris Evans.
I got you, but I love that one too. I mean, that was
exactly.
Of course, seeing the Deadpool movie and
right.
pull that little switcheroo. I mean, they talk about before. I mean, that's probably my favorite movie. Again, I'm not saying ever. The first Deadpool is up there with these other things I've talked about, and again, there's drama in that too. There is torture. There is losing a loved one. There's all sorts of things. But the third one, I mean, just the fun between those two guys, but between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and then you throw in, and at a certain point, you throw him, him in too, and it's just like, are you kidding me? The Johnny Storm kind of character that was fantastic.
No pun intended.
Yeah. So there you go. No, I punned and I didn't even mean it. It was. I always want to be like, look at my puns. Look at my pun. That's a Sex in the City kind of thing. But yeah. I mean, Chris Evans with those two guys. My gosh, like it's hard to have more fun than that. So that was another one. So I don't know. You may not have brought that one up, but you gave us what's the name of the one you just said? The Christmas one?
No, Red One.
Red One. Okay. Because the thing is, I admit it. I'm a little biased against Christmas movies, not because you see a bunch of them and it ends up being like Tim Allen in a fat suit, and after a while you're like, okay, I don't know about this, but you know what? I will see this one, and Chris Evans is an easy sale for me. So.
Yeah, what I've been telling people about this movie, kind of your point, like, you sort of think of the Santa Claus with an E, and I'm like, think of this as Men in Black, but it's about Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So there's like this whole bureaucracy at the North Pole and how this stuff work, and and it tonally it's very MIB. So it is humorous, but it plays straight with its premise. And I think that's why it worked. It's kind of like a very different, but last year or 2 years ago was a movie called Violent Night with David Harbour as Santa Claus. And it's like Die Hard, but with Santa.
How have I not seen that?
Okay. Oh, this is great. And so David Harbour is like the John McClane Santa Claus. And again, it's not Elf, it plays straight with its premise. It's funny,
right.
But they play it straight, and I think I personally think that's sometimes the harder thing to do, as opposed to hanging a lampshade on everything and be like, oh, this is so stupid, right?
Right.
And so I appreciate that. I didn't realize I was going to be like sitting here recommending Christmas movies, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Hey, well, if those are the ones you like, it works for me. Yeah. Anything else recently that piqued your interest?
Oh, well, a movie I did not like as much, which I kind of I didn't know that I went in with high expectations, but I was hoping for more, was the new Lord of the Rings animated movie that's out tonight. Yep. It's called War of the Rohirrim, and it's a good story, and I think that if one enjoys this franchise, it's kind of fun to dip in and sort of hear the music again and see the things that you're familiar with. But it's so cynical. That's what really irked me, is even as I was watching it, I was like, why did they make this movie? And as I was watching it, I was like, I'll bet you there's like a rights issue, and they just wanted to get something out the door. And then I read up on it. It's like, that's exactly why, because Warner Brothers was going to lose the rights, so we need to put something out there. And I'm like, I hate that stuff, man. I'm like they put care into it, they put thought into it. So I'm not in any way denigrating the work of the people who made it, but it's just, this was not a story that was demanding 2 hours and change to be told. It's right. It's literally, it's based on something in J.R.R. Tolkien's appendices, and they blew it out into a feature. And I'm like, well, if this is what Lord of the Rings is going to be from now until the end of time,
well, that's a shame. I mean, Yeah, don't do that. And again, there's
Yeah,
others guilty of that before too. But
sure. Yeah,
that's a
too
disappointment,
many of these
especially if you,
franchises.
right, right. Well, I think they get to a point where they've had so much success. They're like, yeah, we can put a crappy one out, and I'm sure
That's right.
they'll forgive us. We'll make some money, and everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
But okay, so that one we shall avoid. How about one more good one? You got one more good one
One more
for us?
good one. Let's. Um. Oh well. Skeleton Crew. That's the new streaming series. I just dropped a review of that at the Chronicle, and we're
Okay.
talking about franchises that are overdone. So maybe Star Wars falls into that. But my feeling with Star Wars is, give me something new, give me something different
Right.
within this world. And this show, which is created by John Watts, who directed the recent Spider-Man trilogy,
Right.
clearly he grew up with the same 80s influences as me, and maybe that's why I'm happy as a clam, because it's my partner Brian Hall, he always talks about, like, I love movies that are about the magic in your backyard. And
All right. Very
he
cool.
right, like E.T. and Goonies and things like that.
Yeah.
And this is very much that. It's sort of like you take a little Goonies, you splice it with Flight of the Navigator, sprinkle it with a little bit of Star Wars, you get some Jude Law in there. That's always a good thing. And so far, at least, we got something pretty special.
All right. Well, you know what? Yeah, we generally like that stuff's cool because we all have our sort of biases in the family. I've got two boys, myself, my wife, but we all come together on Star Wars. That is something.
Nice.
The Star Wars universe will so that's good. We set time for those. We all come together on the Marvel stuff pretty well too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm falling behind, if I'm being honest, with Marvel. It's just there's been so much. It's like it's hard to keep up.
Well, yeah, there's got to be a point where I think they could have slowed down. There's a little too much out there. So I'm not saying we've seen all of it, but we try to when we can. And then there are some Star Trek haters. I won't expose their names in my family. So I go, I watch it, and I love it. And I've watched the recent series. I love the one with it has oh, come on, Pike. When they go back to
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, I love his portrayal of him.
He's so great.
Always heard about Christopher Pike in the in the original, and like I just love where, and then you see it in the reboot, obviously of the Star Trek movies, which I liked all of those that J.J. Abrams did. And
I agree.
I generally would have been so skeptical and been like, wait, you're going to try to replace Leonard Nimoy, and you're going to try to replace like William Shatner and all this. And I mean, man, was that cast brilliantly, and it, 'cause how many other things those guys have all done.
Yeah.
I mean, Zoe Saldana now, I love Lioness, which is something I'm watching, which, I would recommend if you like that kind of thing. That's more in the sort of spy, well, not spy, but yeah, CIA operatives kind of realm. She's in that, Nicole Kidman, a few others. Right now, Kirk Acevedo, who is always friendly and on places like Twitter, and
he's great.
Is showing up in there, which is pretty cool. Obviously, Chris Pine has been in about a billion things, and possibly my favorite of all. What's his face from The Boys?
Carl Urban.
Old Carl Urban is amazing. I mean, different roles he plays, the accent he takes on there, and the whole thing. And then you'll see him play McCoy, in those Star Trek movies, and sound exactly like him. It's
amazing.
I mean, he's so good. And I mean, even in a small role, was utterly hilarious in the Thor movie. He showed up with like that.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
I love Carl Urban and everything. So, I mean, man, again, it had to be a good story. There had to be a lot to it, but the casting was brilliant. I love that reboot. And again, I would have been skeptical of any reboot of Star Trek, and they did it, and they did it well. And it was cool how they changed the timeline, and so they could have whole new stories.
I agree with you, and if I can add one other thought, you can
add a million thoughts, my friend.
You're talking about Anson Mount as Captain Pike, and obviously we got Chris Pine as Kirk, and I think that to me, all there's a lot of window dressing that's been changed around with Star Trek and the more recent stuff. Just of necessity, it has to adapt to modern times. But what they've preserved, to me, the most essential thing is the core of doing the right thing, as far as what motivates our characters. I saw somebody on a video online, and they were making a joke about sort of our politics right now. It was like a Manosphere video. I think it was Cody Johnson, but it was like, if you want to look at how to act, just look at Star Trek captains. And I found that very funny because it was, it was amusing, but it's also like, yeah, basically, right? When in doubt, you can do a lot worse than saying, what would Picard do?
No, I mean, Roddenberry looked at, in the future to what he hoped was an ideal world, right? I mean, it isn't, people try to say, and of course on the right, like, oh, it's communism. It's not communism. If it was communism, then it turns into Stalinism. It's socialism. And you can believe in that or not believe in that or whatever. But point being, I'm not even sure it's pure socialism, because clearly some people in that universe are wealthier than others. So I don't really know how it works, because it does seem that currency doesn't really seem to exist as much. So, and I'm not sure how it works, right? Like Picard, and I watched the Picard series. He's got a pretty nice place there, maybe he's got a great pension. I don't know, but he's got a pretty nice place there. I have to believe everybody in the universe does not have, or everybody in their federation does not have that same thing. So I don't think it's even pure socialism, but it's at least something closer to our ideal of what we'd like to be as humans. Maybe when you came in the rant I was finishing up about the public good, and forgetting about what democracy is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about all of us. It doesn't mean we don't have individual interests and likes. It doesn't mean that we're not still in a system where, there's a certain amount where you are trying to earn money because you want to do things. You want to take vacations. You want to do whatever. But we haven't even figured out the basic stuff yet. We haven't figured out how you get paid family and medical leave for everybody yet. We figured it out. 80% of people support it. We just can't get it passed. And so that's what I like about that universe. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is exactly equal and everybody is, they've taken the individuality out of people and like they're a bunch of drones walking around. Everybody's still individual. Everybody still comes from their own background. They bring interesting things to it, but they see each other as equals. They treat each other with respect, and they kind of seem to want what is better for all humanity. Like that is the driving force. There are times where like right now where I feel like where we all have our lizard brain and we make those choices or whatever. And even those of us, the best among us, even my rant when I began, I was talking about anger for people that voted for Trump, who voted. And I picked three purposely very different groups of people. So I didn't want anybody to think I was picking on any race or any individual. And I also made sure to say, I don't feel that way about those entire groups. Like, I hope for the best for the majorities of those groups who did in my opinion, the right thing. I'm just not going to sit around and have huge sympathy for people who voted knowing that bad things would happen for them. All right. Yeah. Well, I wish I could be better than that at times. And I wish I could, and as I said to my friend Tony, who was on earlier, I'll get past that. We do. Right. I'm angry right now because people I love have lost rights, and my country has embarrassed itself in the international stage, and these are things that bother me. But what I like about it is, almost like we slip back into being, whatever. Like you see that here and there in the Star Trek universe. You always remember the movie, I think it's with First Contact, where you've got Jean-Luc Picard. And one moment, he's talking about how we don't do things for revenge anymore. We don't do that. We've risen above that. And I can't remember her name. Black actor.
Oh, Alfre Woodard.
Yes. Thank you. Who's like, you claim you've risen above it. I see what you're doing. You're trying to get revenge. This is about revenge. And so even when we've evolved, apparently, 300 years in the future, some of those old traits can still come back and remind us of our past. And so in some ways, it does show you how far we've come, that most people, it seems most of the time, are trying to do what's best. I don't know. That's the way I see it. Maybe I'm...
No, there's a great line in Star Trek Beyond, which is the third one of the reboot movies, where Chris Pine is he's squaring off with Idris Elba as the villain. And he says, Idris Elba's like, you're gonna die as you're trying to do this thing to stop me. You're gonna die, and Kirk says, better to die saving lives than live with taking them. And
Yep.
That's one of those lines for 8 years now. It's stayed just nestled in my brain because I think that and hopefully none of us are in a situation that dire, but if you use that as a Northern Star, I think you'll be all right.
As I kind of go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think about that so much. I think about that with, when we had the Congress back in the first Trump term, they were voting to take away the Affordable Care Act, and during the height of the pandemic and the behavior, and I kept thinking about that. I'm like, people are dying because of your decisions. How do you live with that? Immeasurably, empirically, lives are being lost.
Right. You're causing it. I don't know how
Right.
people live with that. Like, you're the exact cause. Yeah. I was only going to say it's funny, that line, and I've seen that movie a couple times and I hadn't remembered that line. Of course, and this will be trite because I'm sure a lot of people would say they remember this, but for me, it's always, the good of the many outweighs the good of the, when he's giving his life, yep. First, when he's giving his life in Wrath of Khan, and then when we change the timeline, and it's the opposite.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
they do a great play on that, and it's that. Yes, I'm giving my life because why would I not give my life to save the vast majority of people here, right? Like, the good of the many outweighs the good of the few or the good of the one, And I kind of felt like what you said, if that were people's North Star, how different we would be.
Yeah,
that's again. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just, I mean, when we talk about the way this election went down, I mean, that's sort of the misery of it, is that we know what's going to happen as a result of his agenda, and it's going to be suffering for a lot of people, and he was very open about that, and people turned a blind eye to that, and that's it's I try not to be frustrated by it because I try to
You're
focus.
a better man than me. I sometimes cannot be, but it gets to me. The
movie Independence Day, which is, it's not, it's not Citizen Kane, but I think there's a lot in it that stands the test of time. Although one moment, it's after the president's after Air Force One is taken. The speech is great. Oh, it's one of the great ones. But even earlier than that, this is the aliens have attacked and there's just devastation. The president is in Air Force One and he's just sitting there contemplative. And I think the character played by Margaret Collins, she comes up to him and he just says, a lot of people died today. How many of them didn't have to? And this is a president who, in the context of the film, did everything. He did the best he could given all the knowledge he had, and yet he carries that guilt. And I always think about it, I'm like, Donald Trump is somebody who's incapable of grappling with the question as complex as that,
No. And again, the whether it's Morgan Freeman, whether it's Michael Douglas, whether I'm trying to think of Martin Sheen, the people who've played the president in various things I've seen, have always had that moral complexity. They've always had a dark side to them too, and whatever. But they've still understood what their role was, and trying to make the world a better place and trying to make the country a better place. And that's again my reaction to Trump. I mean, that's it. It's not that even that people voted for a Republican, which would have been bad enough, who is proposing cuts to Social Security, whatever, which would have angered me. But this isn't even a human. This is a creature. Yeah. I mean, it is a creature that lives for every deadly sin and for whatever pleasures him at any moment, be it woman, be it money, be it fame, cruelty, because he seems to really get off on that. And how you could look at that, and again, people who I know have kids, people I know have daughters, people I know have had people rip them off in business, and it's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
In any case, so before I let you go, because I do have to go actually drive a son soon, my older son, to his vocal lessons. He's a lead singer in a rock band, which
wow, that's awesome.
Yep. He's old school too, sort of the 60s classic rock up through, I'd say, grunge and some stuff like that. And just he really is into it. And the band has gotten booked a bunch of places. It's a ton of fun. So yeah. So what do you leave folks with? Anything you want to say on the way out the door, or in the way in the chair sitting there? I will make you walk outside. Is what I'm saying.
Well, if I can, one last point. I mean, we're talking about in terms of what we feel after the election, and I taught a class Wednesday morning after the election, so 7:30 a.m. So the election goes the way it does Tuesday night. So first thing in the morning, I got to go in, and I'm talking to a room full of mainly people who are not feeling great. And the one thing I said to them, and I was saying it to myself as much as anything, I was like, look, the things that matter to you, the things that you're passionate about, that were important to you yesterday morning, the morning of, they're still important to you today. They still matter to you today. And I was telling my kids, my students, look, work to make change within your sphere of influence, and it'll motivate you to do more. Don't look at everything that's out of your control and feel despair, because that's not helpful. And so that's just, I found that helpful, and maybe that's something that your audience might find useful too. I don't know.
I think they will, and I think that it's incredible. I think you're much more than a movie critic. You're obviously an incredibly good person, but also someone who pretty philosophical too. That's smarter than what I've heard come out of most of the political universe after this. And I think is honestly serious. No, you're welcome. It's a great way of thinking about it. And I very much enjoyed sort of making your acquaintance online, which is always still, to me, maybe I'm old, it's still a little strange how we meet, and like you get a sense of people's personalities, but not fully. And then you still wanted to kind of, after you probably saw some of the nasty things I say to Republicans online and things like that, still wanted to follow me and talk to me. So, okay.
Oh, I'm so grateful that we get to chat. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is awesome. Seriously. I mean, I feel like, long time coming. And I'm sorry about how it started, but how it went is really, how the journey went is what matters. And having you here and kind of a combo of movies and politics, I really wanted to do something like this, and you've made it awesome. So everybody go to www.zackyscorner.com. You can check them out there. Anywhere else they should find you?
Yeah, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but otherwise you can find me on social media at Zacky's Corner, ZAKIS Corner. So Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. My reviews are at the San Francisco Chronicle and the Wrap, and of course the Movie Film Podcast drops every other week. We do movie commentaries where we talk through a movie that either has an anniversary of some kind or has been suggested by our listeners. Our most recent commentary track is The Rise of Skywalker. We did Star Wars Episode 9, and that just dropped last week for its 5-year anniversary. And then every other week we talk about the new releases, and we just have some fun. And I think it's a good show. We've been doing it for 12 years. So if people want to check it out, please give it a look.
And I can actually give that endorsement, honestly, because I haven't listened. I need to become a regular listener because I love this stuff, but I've listened to at least a half dozen, I want to say, of your episodes.
That's great.
They've been great. They've been great. And I've loved them. So that sort of added to, like, I must have him on because I've loved seeing what you've had to say about this stuff online. And then I got to hear, you probably, I think, shared one of those links in one of your, maybe on Blue Sky or somewhere. I saw it and I clicked on it, and and on the Gladiator stuff, and then I need to listen to more, and I listened to some more. So
great.
I would tell you all, listen to this man. He's smart. He clearly is philosophical, and he knows movies. What more do you want?
Thank you,
Zacky. Seriously, you've been awesome. Thank you for taking the time to be here, and let's do this again.
I'd love that. Thank you, Cliff.
All right, take care, bud.
Bye.
All right, guys, I'm not going to have a ton of time on the question side today because I do have a kid to drive somewhere very soon. I hope you like that. You can tell me. I will take, maybe on the page, on the community pages was recommended to me, take some polls and see what you all like. But I hope you enjoyed it. Again, like bringing Jamie in last week to talk about sort of politics from abroad, but food. Some people who have been comedians, some people, have been people that I do stuff with that are, I mean, Bob Seska, background in the music industry and all that. It was fascinating. I hope was to me, try to get people on, hopefully, that interest you in other ways. So we expand kind of what we talk about. And it doesn't just become politics. It's politics plus. Good. Alton Gillespie tells me that he enjoyed it. And Nikki Oliver says that she loved it. So I think that is the kind of strong endorsement that we like to get here. Let's see. What else? Do we have anything else? Any other business? Movie talk is cool. Music too, Robin M. Well, good, because we're going to have a lot of both here, because I love both. We may even get, as I've said before, I've got some people who've promised me who are playing actual rock bands, and have been in movies. So we, right, there is more. And I think you said Politico. I think you probably meant politics, and that's the way I see it. There's a lot, politics is important, but says other stuff. Clip still showing 99.2. It looks like we haven't gone up a lot of this show, but that's because, we were talking to a guest for a while, and normally I might actually stay on another 15 minutes, and be like, do my little act. Come on, who's gonna, my little goldfish thing, and try to get you to give me some memberships to walk away, or some super chats or something like that, which you can still do. But I'm not gonna, I can't sit here and do too much of that today. You guys are fantastic, and I am gonna have to leave a little bit early, so I apologize for that. But don't worry about the 99,200. We got other ways to get to where we need to be. Let's see where we are on Tuesday when I do the next one of these. I have a feeling if we haven't surpassed it, we will be pretty darn close. So I just say to anybody here right now, please subscribe. Please. Mr. WW, thank you. You did great, Cliffy. See, you're calling me Cliffy now too. Everyone's getting the memo. Good luck with the music business. Get receipts. I'm not in the music business. I will invite people from the music business. That I promise you. Oh, you're talking about my son. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. We will get receipts there. I promise you. He's got a really good voice. We'll have to see what happens, and has some stage presence. Do I know, or do you know James Jarsmush? I do not, and I probably should. Let's see. Embarrass me. Jarsmush. Let's see. American film director and screenwriter, independent cinema, Stranger Than Paradise. All right, looks like somebody good. I wish I knew him. I'd have him on. I do not know him, but maybe sometimes in these cases we know people in common, which is a way that I'm able to get some folks on. I know somebody that knows somebody. Sometimes I just know them. I think well, I think, yeah, there you go, Mr. WW. Friends in a semi-successful rock band, parents paved the way, like paying for college. Well, that's what we're trying to do. That's the plan, get a college degree because the world's the world, but also keep doing your passion. Diane Capobianco, I didn't get to say that name yet today. Thank you. Cliff, big energy hug from Avi Eva. I probably pronounced that wrong. Iva, that is my bad. But I'm going to jump and say to you guys, you're fantastic. We will pick this up on Tuesday. And yes, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell.